Are we seeing the beginning of a rerun of the Cold War? And if so, how much, if at all, should people worry?
No, I think people should not exaggerate these things. And also the Cold War was an ideological war between a free and democratic West and a totalitarian iron-bound tyranny in the Soviet Union, which has as its aim to spread communism throughout the world and was a world power. These things simply don't apply anymore. Russia, I keep having to remind people, has a gross domestic product roughly the size of Italy's, is a decrepit country economically largely, poor and aging, and really should not be overestimated as an enemy. And the lesson I think that we learned, those of us who lived through the Cold War, particularly the Cuban Missile Crisis, is that people will not use nuclear weapons. Didn't egg this up too much.
No, I take that, and it's in the interests of news broadcasters. Sometimes some people argue to do exactly that.
It's been known, and headline writers do this too. But I think we have to be careful not to frighten people too much.
Okay, no, that's a point taken. Just on the point that you make that. The old Marxist-Leninism creed was a proselytizing religion, kind of.
But it was definitely one, yeah.
It was sending the idea was we want to share with the world the benefits of our insights into our economic model, that everybody gets to share the fruits of labour, etc., etc., etc. Is it not true that Vladimir Putin is peddling to what we used to call client states? A kind of creed. It's a different kind of creed. It's not about economics, but it's about values. He's saying, look at the West. It's morally bankrupt. They don't know what a man or a woman is anymore. Look to us, look to Russia. We've got traditional family values. We've got faith-based values. That's what they're exporting.
I think some Western conservatives like to kid themselves, though. But I think, as we've learnt definitively in the past week, that Vladimir Putin is a man of total cynicism. It's a man who goes to church and launches an invasion in which innocents are killed. I don't think we can really take anything seriously that he says. And the idea that he has a coherent ideology is absurd. What he certainly isn't is a communist. And there's just the ludicrous idea, which so many people have, is that he's some kind of communist who wants to reinstate the old Soviet Union. Is just a nonsense from start to finish, and it was never true. People must understand. I was there in August 1991 when it collapsed. I heard the crash. That Soviet communism is over forever. That's not coming back. And indeed, what we have now had no need to come back either. We created
how could
disaster.
How could you stop it?
When we defeated, after a huge and terrible struggle, Germany in 1945, we sent people in to rebuild democracy, the rule of law, a free press, a whole new society. We also sent billions, in today's terms, of aid in to rebuild a shattered economy of a country defeated in war. When we didn't beat Russia in war, when Russia, in fact, gave up without deciding to pull huge numbers of people down, without behaving like the Chinese and murdering its own people to keep power. When that happened, instead of saying, what a marvellous opportunity to bring Russia back into the civilized free nations, we increasingly treated it as an enemy. And it's that policy, which originated, I think, with Paul Wolfowitz, the clever architect of the Iraq War, to whom we already owe so much. That policy of expanding NATO East was a policy condemned at the time by one of the most brilliant diplomats who ever lived, George Kennan, and condemned during the past few decades by Yegor Gaidar, amongst other liberal democratic Russian politicians, who said this will strengthen the nationalists, this will strengthen the Putinites. Don't do it. We ignored all that. We carried on expanding NATO up as close as we could to Russia, and now we created the conditions in which this horrible thing